I'm back with another episode. In today's episode, I interviewed Mikayla. Mikayla is a manifestation boss. We talk mindset, manifestation, and the importance of routines. Get ready to have your cup poured into. First, let's start off with sharing who is Mikayla, where does she come from, and how did you get to where you are today?
Hi, guys. I'm Mikayla. I live in Nebraska. And who am I? Oh my goodness. I feel like that's such a daunting question. Well, by title of my job, I am the CEO of my own company, Mikayla Jai. I am a manifestation success coach and a personal development influencer. I'm obsessed with manifestation and the idea that we can create our own realities. And I really use that intentionally in my life, even outside of my business. I am a world traveler. I am a coffee connoisseur. I love fashion. I love luxury. I love like high vibe, bougie lifestyle kind of things. And how I got to where I am now was basically being a shit show and needing to make over my entire life, being super negative, and my life was rough. And I actually took a trip and it changed everything. I turned into a more positive person, switched around my whole mindset all on my own, just from pure commitment and dedication. And that ended up sparking into a blog, into my business. And here I am now, going more towards the influencer side of things, but still running my company.
So I noticed that towards the end, you said that you were kind of like a shit show and there was a lot of like negativity, and you were like, okay, I'm going to decide to change and be more positive and just have, I guess, a better reality and a better life. What was the final deciding factor for you to make that change?
Yeah. So I did a study abroad trip for 5 weeks, and that was the catalyst of when everything changed. But before that, I was probably having the worst summer of my life. I came home from my freshman year of college, and my home actually had gotten foreclosed. So I was living at my grandpa's, and it was just like a not cute place. It was like a not good situation. And
Mm.
I just hated it. I was far away from my friends. I had to drive like 35 minutes to my job, and I was working like 50 hours a week. I was working full time at a boutique, open to close, extra hours. And my day would basically look like this. I would wake up at 5:30. I would go to the gym and I would go to like a fitness class in the morning, and then I would drive and get coffee. I would go to my job. I would sit there. I would do online homework because I was taking online classes, and then I would get ready and I would open the store, and it was a fashion boutique. So I would work all day from 10 to 6. I'd go home, finish any homework I had, and usually by then I was too exhausted to hang out with people. It was another like 30-minute drive if I wanted to see my friends, and just overall it was really miserable in that kind of rat race of, I don't know, doing the same thing over and over and over again. I was just negative, and it was not where I wanted to be. I was very excited to leave for my study abroad trip. And I think just seeing myself not being around people, not loving my life, not really even smiling, I could feel my confidence dwindling during that time because I was so miserable, that I made the decision while I was sitting in the Dallas airport before flying over to Paris that like this has to change. I remember sitting there being so anxious because I knew things were going to change. And I was like, I'm going to take control of this and it's going to change for the better. I'm going to come out as a different person. I didn't know a single person going on my study abroad trip. So it was like an all new environment. And I was like, what better way to change everything? Because nobody has any expectations or nobody has any pictures of you created already. So I could really just be whoever I wanted to be. And that's when I really made that decision.
That's very inspirational. And that almost sounds like my story because I know when we first met, we didn't get really a chance to talk, but
Mhm.
I actually was in the same position last year. I was living in Florida, that's where I'm from, and I was still in my college town in Gainesville, and it was my birthday coming up. So for my birthday, my family, we all call each other. Um, and I just didn't want to talk to anyone. And I looked at myself and I'm like, why are you acting like this? Because for me, that was not usual behavior.
Yeah.
And I realized I'm like, I'm not happy with my life. Like it shows in the way that I dress and my attitude and like my energy levels. And
Mhm.
so I decided once my lease was up, I packed up my car, I put some stuff in a storage unit, and I moved to New York. And ever since then, it's like I feel like I've finally been able to like actually live life. if
Yeah,
that
and
makes
isn't that so funny how like travel can really help us do that? It's just like once we get
sense.
out of a certain environment, we can really establish who we want to be, what we want out of life when we're just like free of what feels comfortable and normal.
I'm glad you said that because I think so I never took a plane until 2015, I think it was, when
Mhm.
I took a trip with my school and went to DC. And ever since then, I had been addicted to traveling. So I just started traveling like crazy. And it was hard because, you want to go on trips with your friends or family. Of course, those people have like
Mhm.
responsibilities or they can't get time off of work if they're in work or they're in school. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to wait for anyone. And I didn't have a significant other. So I'm like, I'm just going to travel alone. And I did that and I felt like traveling alone versus like traveling with a group, I was able to like open my mind more and able to, like you
Mhm.
just said, disconnect from my day-to-day life and really find out what am I doing with my life? What is my purpose? Like where am I headed to next? And those were the best moments of my life, I think, so far.
Yeah, I love solo trips. They're so fun and it really does get you out of your comfort zone. It's like you are going to these restaurants alone. Maybe you're going to sit and like talk to somebody that you never would have met otherwise. You have to be
Mhm.
willing to put yourself out there and it gives you so much time to think. I've taken lots of solo trips because I'm in college still and a lot of people aren't willing to like miss school or maybe they have normal jobs. Since I just work for myself, I can kind of pack up and go whenever, but it just gives you so much time to think about what you really want out of life. And then you have that space to go do the things because you're like literally in a different country or a different city. You have all the time
Mhm.
on your hands. And it's just my favorite way to do personal
Mhm.
development. Like, who wouldn't want to take a trip and like make it personal growth?
I definitely agree just because like going to the coffee shop or somewhere like that you go to every day, sometimes you have to like switch up your locations. And I know
Hmm.
for me with my gym, sometimes I go to a different gym just so that way I can recharge that energy and like that motivation to want to work out and remember like what my purpose is.
That's such a good
You
idea. I've never thought about
know?
that with the gym. Yeah, I could totally see it. And just mixing up the energy and being in a different vibe in a different place.
Mm-hmm. Going back a little bit, you said that you started your blog first and then you went into your business. What was your blog originally about?
Yeah, so I started my blog in October of 2017, I believe. Yeah, was it 2017? Yeah, I get all my years mixed up. But I started blogging kind of about getting your shit together. I was getting asked the same questions over and over and over again by all of my friends on campus. They were like, how do you do so much? How are you so productive? How do you travel so much in college? All of these things. And I was like, you know what? I'm really sick of saying the same thing over and over again. I'm going to make a blog and send people blog posts when they ask me the same questions. And so it was motivation, it was productivity, it was like my travel hacks. Sometimes I would like go on a trip. Like I remember going on a trip to Denver and doing like a little Denver guide and a California guide. So it's a mixture of that, but I have had a lot of transitions. So it started as that. And then when I got more into traveling monthly, it turned more into personal development through travel. And I did want to be a travel blogger, but I knew that it was important for me to have a niche. And so I chose the personal development to make it more specific,
Mhm.
which really helped me in the long run because eventually I did transition to more blogging about mindset, the spirituality side, the manifestation stuff, which ended up turning into my business. So it's all been a very natural progression and it grew with me and set me up for what I have now. And I don't blog anymore. Everything's still on my website, however, so people can look. Sometimes I throw up a travel guide every once in a while if I feel like it. But now I have like my podcast, and that's been like the next evolution.
Mm. Oh, not like I have questions, but you just gave me like 20,000 more questions. Um, okay. Let's start with manifestation and mindset just because I do go to networking events and that's been a common topic from the different networking events I've gone to, which has surprised me. How
Interesting.
did you get started with manifestation and Mindset.
Yeah, I think with the mindset stuff, it was definitely my trip I was telling you about, and the manifestation
Mm,
stuff came afterwards. So I came home from that trip and I knew things were going to be different because I was a completely different person. Like the version of Mikayla that my friends knew was like, the negative, life sucks, self deprecating humor, talking about drama and gossip. And the Mikayla that I came back as was basically the opposite of that. And so for me, the way I was going to cope with that was being the most positive version of myself as much as I could around my friends, as much as I felt comfortable, and then consuming every piece of positive information I could when I was alone to like keep up those good vibes. And so I was listening to every podcast on like productivity and positivity and also blogging, because that's when I really started the idea of wanting to have a blog. And, it kind of goes hand in hand, the mindset stuff and entrepreneurship and anything online. And so people were talking about mindset, they were talking about the universe, they were talking about manifestation, and I was reading all the blogs, watching all the YouTube videos. And I don't know where I stumbled across it, but I listened to this one podcast and I think it's still up, but it's called Law of Attraction Solutions. And it's like this old man talking about law of attraction. And it has some good stuff. It is a little creepy sometimes because he's super old, but so it's not as relatable as like my podcast would be. But that's kind of how I stumbled across it. And I spent like months trying to figure it out, like months trying to do all the manifestation tricks and tools and journal prompts. And I honestly couldn't figure it out for like 6 months. And then that's when I started blogging about it. So I think I started talking about it in April of last year.
Mm. So you went on your trip, and when you came back, you're like, okay, I'm gonna like next level myself. I need to like be a new person. I need to like work on myself, personal development.
Mhm.
How was that for you? Just I'm asking this question just because this is something I struggle with. How is that for you coming back from the trip and you wanting better for yourself, but maybe your friends around you were stagnant and comfortable in life and they were supportive? Maybe some friends were supporters, some friends were like, "Oh, like trying to figure out who are you, like you
Mhm.
changed." How was that part of the transition? Did you let it get to you, or did you kind of like dissolve friendships, or did you kind of like pull away where you guys still are friends but maybe you're not as close of friends as you were before?
Mhm. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard. And I feel like it is hard anytime you're making a really, really big life altering decision. And my boundaries were firm when I came back. Like, I was not going back to the negative bullshit I was telling myself and living in before. Like, that was a set thing. And because I had been so positive, like the 5 weeks I was gone, that was just who I was. And so when I came back, I was like, okay, we're gonna see how this goes. And one of my best friends and I kind of fell apart because our friendship was basically built on like talking poorly about other people, and anything that's
Mhm.
inauthentic is going to fall away.
Mhm.
So I was no longer doing that. We didn't have anything to talk about, kind of fell out. Some of my friends were a little confused at first, and it took, I don't know. It took some wiggle room to get used to, because a lot of times we were joking, like, oh, I hate my life. Oh, this sucks. And we would say it, in a funny way, but I didn't want to do that
Right.
anymore. So it was a
Mhm.
lot of going back and forth and seeing what worked, seeing what made me uncomfortable, and kind of, I guess, transforming through that. And going through the transition was uncomfortable, to say in the least. And
Mhm.
I think the weirdest part of all of it was when I became super spiritual. So I went through all of that. And then after I started talking about manifestation openly, like over last summer, I became more and more spiritual. And that was a scary thing for me because I live in Nebraska. It's pretty conservative. Everybody's either like Catholic or Christian. And spirituality isn't talked about openly here, really. So that was a scary thing for me to bring out with my friends. And I have psychic abilities just like anybody else does, but I'm more tapped into mine. And I remember being so afraid to tell my friends that instead of telling them for like months before, I was showing them all these YouTube videos about like psychics and different like weird spiritual things just to like watch their reactions and see how it would go over, until I
Mhm.
finally felt comfortable to like own up to it. And some of them were like, okay, we'll see about that. And others were like, oh, I want to know every little detail. Tell me what this is. So whenever anybody is navigating something like this, you're going to have people fall away. You're going to have people who are super supportive. I've had family members say I'm in a cult because I have a tattoo that aligns with astrology. Like, you're going to have everything under the sun, but it's your boundaries that's going to get you through it. Because I think for me, since I was so dedicated to changing my life, I could get through it and be okay with the uncomfortable transition.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's how it is for me is when people haven't like obviously, especially if they're your friends and they are still like on the same level as you, if they haven't been where you're going, then to them it's like, no, that's not part of the plan. Like, no, we don't
Mhm.
understand that, don't do it. And it's like you have to take leaps of like faith into directions, like uncomfortable directions that you don't understand in order to get to places you've never been before. And to have things
Exactly.
you've never been had before.
Yeah. And I think another weird thing about it is that we all kind of have a spiritual awakening, or, like when we kind of get our mindset in check finally, we all come to that point at different times in our lives. Like the fact that I started doing all of this when I was 19 is crazy to some people, because some people never have a spiritual awakening or, like a mindset awakening until they're like 50. And so it's
Mhm.
different for everybody. And I always remind myself of that because I talk about this stuff to everybody now. Like manifestation is just like a part of me. So it's something I mention all the time. And it's hard not to force it onto other people, because with your loved ones and your friends, you're like, this could change your life. Like, I want you to be applying this so badly, but you can't force it onto other people. And like, I'm also vegan, and it's like, I can't force that on somebody. And so I think about manifestation in the same way. They need to come to that decision on their own. They need to come to their breaking point on
Mhm.
their own for it to be really effective and for it to stick.
That's so true. And that what you just said is something that I had to learn. I remember like when I was traveling alone or just doing stuff and people similar to your story, I'm telling you, like
Mhm.
we were definitely meant to meet.
I
Similar
love
to
it.
your story, I had friends who they would come to me and say, "How are you doing this? How are you traveling alone?" Or even when I moved to New York, people are like, "You moved to New York by yourself?" And I'm like, "Who else was I supposed to move there? Like move here with?" And it's just like, what is the difference in your opinion between mindset and manifestation?
Hmm. I think they're two different elements. I think you need to have your mindset in check. You need to have your shit together for manifestation to work really well for you. So, when I think of mindset, I think of stories you're telling yourself, whether that's about love, like whether you can be loved or not, or money. Do you only get paid on paydays, or does money come to you every single day? Those are like
Mm,
the rules and the stories you're telling yourself about life. Mindset work is going to be like forgiveness work. It's going to be building your confidence. It's all the things that we're thinking in our head. Whereas
mm,
manifestation is a practice, and it's always going on whether or not we're using it. And that's why I love teaching it, because I want people to be more intentional about it. Because right now they're just living at default and it's happening. Everything's just like happening, but they're not taking advantage of it. So with manifestation, I think about it in the most grounded way possible, and it's goal setting. If you set a goal to earn $1,000 this weekend, that's what you're manifesting. And you're going to take the right action steps to go get your $1,000. And those are going to
mm,
be your action steps for manifestation. I literally think of it as the exact same thing, because that makes a lot of sense to people. And your mindset is going to help you if you have that in check, if you're saying the positive affirmations, if you really truly believe in yourself, if you have such a high level of confidence that you know you can get everything you want. That's going to make the process of obtaining your goal or receiving your manifestation so much easier.
mm. And when you say manifestation, and you said, I think you said it's rituals and practices,
Mhm.
what rituals or practices do you utilize? Only because I remember when I first moved here, I met a girl and she told me how at nighttime she would kind of like journal her life, but in the sense of how she wanted her day to be like the next day.
Yeah, like
Um,
scripting.
yeah, yeah, scripting, that's the word, thank you. She did
Yeah.
scripting, and another thing that she did, and she got me into it, was there was this video that she found on YouTube, and she would play it, and it would just speak affirmations throughout the day, and I know that's pretty popular and trendy, but what are
Mhm.
some, rituals and practices that you utilize throughout the day or whenever?
Yeah, I have so many. I always think of, well, like one of my actual affirmations is my life is one big moving prayer. So I think of everything almost as a ritual, but I have a very strict morning routine. I think it's really, really important for you to have a daily practice that you do every single day, sometime throughout the day. If you work at 8 a.m. and you really can't make the time, I get it. Do it at night. Like figure out a time that
Mhm,
you can do it. But my
mhm,
daily practice always consists of doing journaling. I'm huge on journaling and some sort of meditation or visualization. I like to pull like a tarot or an oracle card every single day. I use Palo Santo and sage, and I'll like dance around my apartment to like rap music, and usually we'll post it on my Instagram story and be super
mhm,
embarrassing. And I think of that as a ritual. For manifestation specifically, though, I like to use the moon cycles. I use the
mm,
new moon to set my intentions. So I go by the moon calendar, not the normal calendar. So my first day of the month is technically the first day of the new moon, and I will decide my goals for the month, set my intentions. I do a full like new moon ritual. And then on the full moon, which is exactly 2 weeks after that, I kind of come back to those intentions and I sit down and I get really clear about where I am. So it's been like 2 weeks since I've done that. What steps have I taken? Have I received this manifestation yet? If I haven't, what else needs to be done? What do I need to release? What stories am I telling myself? And what do I need to step into in order for this thing to manifest by the next new moon? So I think the
mm,
moon is one of my favorite ways to manifest. But other than that,
mm.
just doing the daily mindset work is really, really important in your journal or in meditation.
So you really, I've never heard of anyone saying that before, that they use the moon as their way of like setting goals and things.
Yeah.
What led you to that?
Oh my goodness. Good question. I don't
Mm,
know. Where did I learn this? I just, like I said, when I was learning about all this, I was literally reading every blog post, every YouTube video, all of the things. I can't even tell you who I was watching or who I was listening to because there were so many people, but I must have like stumbled across something about the moon. And I've always been obsessed with the idea of the moon. And I think I just might have found a blog post talking about it or something, but I knew that the new moon signified like a fresh start. It's
mm,
like it's in the dark. You don't see it because it's like brand new. So it's like, okay, everything that you want is kind of in the dark. You need to figure it out. And then the full moon is when you see the full actual moon in the sky. And that's when everything is revealed. So that's when you can see what
mm,
needs to be released in order for you to receive your manifestation. And that's been super effective for me because if you think about it, like the moon moves our tides and we're made up of
mhm,
tons of water. Of course, the moon affects us. And so I just use that to my benefit. I'm also obsessed with astrology. So that probably helps me come across the moon stuff. But yeah, it's been one of my favorite things. And it's just a fun ritual to do every single month. My new moon and full moon rituals are both a little different. I do different visualizations, different activities in my journaling, and it's just like a fun little thing for me.
Wow. So do you do the new moon ritual? From my perspective, I learned like you write down kind of like what you mentioned earlier, you write down things you want to get rid of and then you burn that and that's your way of like letting it go. Is that
Mm.
part of a ritual that you do or no?
I don't do that for the new moon, but you can definitely do that. For me, I think about like releasing and letting things go during my full moon. I always say that my full moon ritual is kind of when I sit down and just like roast myself. I'm like, okay, this is why I'm not here. This is why I haven't been doing the things. And then I just like write it all out and I usually will like cross it out in my journal. As for writing things and then like burning it, I do that with forgiveness letters. So this is something that I teach all of
Mm,
my clients. It's seriously one of the most transformational things that you can do is when you feel like you are just stuck, when you feel like you're on the verge of an up level, but things aren't happening and you're starting to get frustrated, get into your journal and think about who do you need to forgive? Do you need to forgive yourself?
mm,
Do you need to forgive an ex? Do you need to forgive your parents? And it could be for literally anything. But a lot of times we're holding up this weird pent up energy that we don't even realize that once we can forgive them, we get to have that release. And so from
mhm.
there, I usually will like rip it up, I will burn it, I will flush it down the toilet. And that's kind of the way I release with like lighting things on fire, I guess.
Wow. So going back a little bit, you talked about how you do your manifestation. Let's
Mhm.
say you're manifesting, like you gave the example of like $1,000. Do you share your manifestation with others or do you kind of keep it to yourself?
A lot of times I talk about the things that I want to manifest because when you can put it out there and really share it, that's a very bold thing for you to do. It's not easy to tell people what you're manifesting. It's not easy to tell people about your goals because you don't want people to like shit on them or bring their bad
Mhm,
vibes around it.
mhm,
But I think of it as like, okay, if I'm putting this out there, that means I fully trust in the universe to help bring this back to me. And also, the more people that you can get behind your goal, the easier it is going to be, the easier it's going to be to manifest because you have that momentum, you have more of that positive energy. So I know that like my audience on Instagram, they love to know what I'm manifesting because I'll put on my story, I'll be like, okay, I'm manifesting this Louis Vuitton bracelet. And people are like, oh my God, that's so cool. And then I manifest it and then they want to know exactly how it happened. And so they get to literally
mhm,
watch the process of that. And like a
mhm,
long time ago, I posted that I wanted to manifest like Balenciaga sneakers. And people were like, oh my God, how exactly are you going to do it? And I like shared the whole process with them. And I'm actually going to be buying them this month. So I like can't wait to post about it.
mhm,
So I love to share it with people and people will support you. And that way, when you're feeling down or you're feeling like, oh my God, it's not here yet, like, where's the money? Where's the handbag? Where's the boyfriend? I've been doing all the things. You can have those few go to people that are going to hype you up and be like, listen, it's
mhm,
coming. You got this. You've been doing all
mhm.
the action steps. It has to come by law because you've been putting that energy out there. So, it's a vulnerable thing, but it also lets you be supported and uplifted. And I think that's really, really important.
That's so true. Just because I feel like on my journey, I've learned kind of like going back to what when I asked you earlier, when you came back
Mhm.
from your trip and you had to like get let go of certain friendships. It's the same thing with me now when I share like my goals or what I'm manifesting. I notice the friends who are very supportive and may like check in within a week or maybe a month for like, hey, you said you're working on this, how's it going? Or just following up
Mhm.
and kind of like another way of checking in on me. And I notice the people who are kind of like, you're crazy, like you could never do that, you can never do that, or that's not going to work out. Especially in the workplace, I feel like there's a lot of people who come into work and they're like, I hate my job, why are you even trying to get anything done? This is a horrible
Mhm.
place. And I just look at them and it's like, well, why are you here? Like you're not forced to be here. And it's just keeping my mindset clear and like saying to myself, like, you got this, like you're doing great. This is just like the negative energy that you just have to pull away and keep like manifesting the things that you want to happen within my work or life or wherever it may be.
Yeah, and that's like the risk you take when you put yourself out there anywhere. Like
Mhm,
you getting a job, that's you putting yourself out there. You posting something on Instagram, that's you putting it out there. And you're taking that risk of getting those like weird vibes, of getting that weird feedback or people who don't believe in it. But those people who are like, you're crazy or like, that's ridiculous, they just don't believe in themselves. And I think
mhm,
that's really sad because they're just putting their self imposed limiting beliefs onto you. And so when
mhm,
you are doing that and you are opening yourself up, whether you have an online business and you're posting online or you really want a promotion, you're telling people at the workplace, like you're opening yourself up and you're taking a risk and putting yourself out there. And that's more than most of those people will ever do.
I agree. And that kind of also does it actually does go into my next question. I feel like when people want to like start their own business or maybe they're trying to be an influencer or it's even just them applying for a job. I actually have a friend who I was talking to the other day and she says that before she applies for a job, she always psychs herself self out and ends up not
Mhm.
applying. And I replied back to her, why do you think you do that? And it led me to, before she responded, I started thinking about it. And there's this quote that's going around, start by starting. But I
Mhm.
feel like it's not even outside factors. That's always the reason why we don't do whatever we say we're going to do. Sometimes it's our own fear and our own self doubt. What is your advice for people like me who have ideas, or like my friend who wanted to apply for a job but was too afraid to? What is your advice to them who are too afraid to start or too afraid to take that next step?
I would say make it about your why. Why do you want the job? Why do you want to start the business? Why do you want to have the podcast, the YouTube channel? Why do you want to date the guy or the girl? Why do you want the Louis Vuitton bag? Like, figure out what is your why and let the pressure be on that. I think a lot of times we're putting so much pressure on ourselves when it's not even about us. Like, for me, with my online business, my whole mission is to empower women to manifest through decision, to just decide what you want in life and to go for it. And so those days where I'm like worried and I don't feel like showing up, or I'm like, oh my gosh, like I look gross, I don't want to go on Insta stories, whatever, I'm making it about me. And it's not about me. It's about the people that I'm impacting every single day by just sharing what I'm going through, by sharing what's on my heart, by sharing what came up in my journaling and making it about somebody else. So if you are applying for a job and you're like, well, how does that work for me? What are you going to be doing at that job? Are you going to be doing social media? Think about all the people you're going to impact with your company's product or service. If you are getting like a job in, I don't know, like manual labor, think about like what you're building and creating and how many people that's going to affect. And just stop making it so much about yourself, because we are our worst critics. So it's super easy for us to put that pressure on ourselves. But if you take it out of you and make it about somebody else, I think it's always easier.
Mm, that's very, very true. My next question is, how can someone change their mindset from poverty or lack or limiting mindset to kind of like what you just talked about before, just now, but how can they change it from a lack of limiting beliefs to a lack of like they're bountiful and they have so many and plentiful of things?
Yeah, it's like really switching the money mindset kind of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it has to start with forgiving your past. If you feel like you're in a poverty mindset, if you find yourself saying, I'm broke, if you find yourself saying, I can't afford that, that's expensive, you need to figure out where that's coming from. Were you raised in a household that didn't have enough money? Were you raised on food stamps? Did your parents fight about money? Where does that come from? You have to go back to that and you have to forgive that. And for me in my own life, I was raised in like a wealthy household and then we lost everything. Like we had like, all the designer bags. I went to private school. I was in competitive cheer to like shopping at Goodwill, getting canned food from the church, like food stamps. So for me, I had to do a ton of forgiving work around my parents and how that went and how they were always fighting over money and how bills weren't paid and how credit cards were maxed and how stressful things were around money. So, really, to change that, I had to go back and I had to forgive them. I had to rewrite the stories and really write into existence what I wanted to be true about money. So, go back to the beginning, forgive it, and then only look forward. What do you want to believe to be true about money? We have the power to
Hmm.
make that up. You have the power to say, I make money every fucking day. You have the power to
Hmm.
say, I only ever make 10K months, like 10K plus months. You have the power to rewrite that and decide that you are so abundant now. And it can be hard at first because you're like, okay, like I'm reaffirming this a million times, but like, Mikayla, I'm not a millionaire yet. And I think when you're starting to doubt it, just come back to gratitude. I'm so grateful I have a bed. I'm grateful for an apartment. I'm grateful for food. I'm grateful for my friends, family, because the more grateful you can be in the things that you have now, the more that's going to expand.
Oh my gosh. We need to like meet up one day because you're literally filling me up right now. So we met at Seeking Millennial. There was just in case
Yeah.
for the people who are listening, we met at a networking event, and you just mentioned your 10K months, and you actually had your first 10K month. Do you want to share
Mhm.
how you exactly what led you to achieving that 10K month?
Yeah. So my very first five-figure month was in January and it actually was 17K, which blew my freaking
Whoa.
mind. um, like 11,000 of it was from my business and then 6,000 was from a refund check. So that was super cool. And like what led up to that was I literally dedicated January to being my money mindset month. Like in December, I had spent a lot of money. I hosted a retreat. I did a launch. I was just like, I don't know, I was exhausted in every way, shape, and form. I was exhausted in my resources, exhausted in my body. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. I need money so I can, fill up my own cup so then I can pour into other people so I can do a better job, show up in a better way. So I made it my month to freaking change things. I bought like three money mindset books. I went to
Mhm.
freaking town. And for anybody listening, the best money mindset book I've ever read in my life is called Happy Pocket Full of Money. And I suggest
Mhm.
every single person read it like three times. It is such a game changer. Honestly, it's the only money mindset book you'll ever need. And so I was just reading about money every single day. I was journaling about money every single day, sometimes 3 times a day. Like I was going through this very specific money manifestation process that I teach in one of my master classes literally 3 times a day just to clear out the bullshit. And I had set up a money shrine in my room. I bought this goddess provisions box, which it's like a spiritual subscription box, and their theme for the month was abundance. So I got that, and they gave us abundance spray, and I sprayed that in my room every day. They gave us abundance drops, put that in my water every day. Like I literally went crazy about it. And then like as the practical steps, I launched a product, and I had people pay in full. I had people on payment plans. I had other payments coming in. I was getting paid for my podcast, and just setting up the different ways that money can come through my business, having lots of different funnels for money to come in. And then I got a refund check from school, and that was guaranteed to come in. So that wasn't anything I had to like worry about, but went crazy and kept myself open to receiving.
So you talked a lot about how you just really focused on manifesting money. To some
Mm-hmm.
people that can be seen as you're obsessing over it. How do you manifest money but keep it in a healthy way?
Mm-hmm.
Or oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I just had fun with it. I made it like a fun
Mhm.
project because everything I just described could 120% sound very obsessive
Mhm.
because it was a bit obsessive, but it didn't feel that way. It felt fun to me. It felt like a game. And I was like, okay, like I'm setting this goal. Like, I don't know how it's gonna come in. I knew I was getting the refund check, but that was it really. And I think I had like two payment plans coming in, but it wasn't anywhere near ending in 17K. I was just like, let's see how this can happen. Let's see how I can rewrite my own rules around money and see how the universe shows up for me. And I just made it super playful because, and another piece of my brand is my podcast is the Mindset, Magic, and Manifestation podcast because magic is important too. And for me, getting grounded in my magic changes everything. And that just means being grounded in your spirituality or religion or whatever you believe. Because I knew that if I could put my energy behind it, the universe was going to match me where I was at. And that's exactly what happened.
Mm. Wow, that's amazing. I love that you did say that you were playful with it, just because that is a problem I see with people, for example, working out. Everyone when it started the year, they're like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna change, I'm gonna go back to the gym, I'm gonna head in there. But I feel like they obsess over it and then it's not fun anymore. So it makes them not
Mhm.
want to keep going. However, if you keep it fun, you switch it up, you try classes, you work out on your own, you maybe work out with a friend, you work out at a park, you work out at the gym, you switch it up and you keep it fun. It keeps you wanting to keep going back and doing it more and just trying to like grow and learn more into it. And I feel like for me, the way I look at manifestation is the same way. If you like switch it up and keep things fun and learning and trying new stuff, it keeps you manifesting whatever it is that you desire in life.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think when we're doing things the same way over and over again, we put that pressure on, like, especially with the gym example, it's a perfect example. It gets boring, it gets old, it feels stagnant, it feels comfortable. And I think that's why traveling is so easy. It's easy for me to manifest while I'm traveling because you're in such a different environment, you're changing things up. And so I take that into consideration when I am home, the like couple weeks of the month I'm actually home is I'm always changing my daily rituals. I'm changing my routines around. And some months I'm doing a bath ritual every single day. Other months I am listening to sleep meditations every night. Some weeks I'm saying affirmations in the mirror. Other weeks I'm saying like Lakshmi goddess mantras, just changing it up and making it fun makes it a project you want to continue. And that's true about anything in life.
That is very, very, very true. You have to keep constantly changing it and learning more so that way you can keep changing it and challenging yourself.
Mhm.
So we talked a bit about your blog. Now your business. What is your business? What are the services you offer if someone was interested in um taking part in one of your services?
Yeah, so now I have this full-blown business, which is super cool and still so surreal to me. I'm obsessed with my business. I have some online courses, like I have a course on daily rituals, a little manifestation course. I have my money masterclass, which if you guys are really wanting to manifest money, that's where I would start. And then I have like coaching packages as well. So I do one-on-one coaching. I have a signature group program. It's 12 weeks, and it's like a really, really deep dive into your mindset, magic, and manifestation through and through. I also have a high level business program as well. So, anybody who does have a business and they really want to take it to the next level and they want somebody to hold you accountable, I have a business mentorship. And yeah, so those are like all the things that I have. They're all on my website. And if you're figuring out what would be best for you, I always just tell people to DM me on Instagram and we can find the thing that's the best fit for you.
Mm. Switching gears up a little bit, we really didn't talk about your personal life, but you are in school.
Mhm.
What are you currently studying in school?
Oh, school. I
Do
am
you
a French major and I'm a double minor
want
in
to talk about it
fashion
if you
and
don't want
international
to?
studies. What?
Do you want to talk about it?
Oh, we can. I just think it's so funny. School is such a funny thing to me. Because it's interesting having a business and being in school because there are like sacrifices that you have to make in both. And it's just a very interesting balance. So, yeah, I study French, fashion, and international studies.
Thank you for repeating that. I was going to actually do that because I
Yeah.
thank you. So French. For you to be in school doing French, however, your business, it in some ways it does have to do with French because you could create content in French. What made you keep your major even though you established your business, which and essentially is your career? What made you
Mhm.
keep your major, not switch to like business or marketing or some other major that's related to your business?
Yeah, I've actually switched my major 3 times.
Mhm.
So when I went to college, I was a fashion merchandising major, and then I switched to fashion communications around the time I started to get more into blogging. I liked the more social media marketing scene, and then at that time I was a French minor, and then I was like, "Okay, I'm not really down with our fashion program because the fashion program we have at our school isn't the best. I mean, it's fine and it's probably great for being in Nebraska, but I felt like I wasn't learning the things I would actually need to know in the fashion industry. And I wasn't even going to be in the fashion industry because I had planned to be like a blogger or a podcaster after college, anyways. So then I was like, okay, I'll just do the French major because language majors, side note, are super easy majors, like really light workload because you can only take so much of a language at once. Like there's only so much you can learn at like any given time. And so they make your workload really easy and really light. And that's why I chose to stick with it because at the time I was already 2 years into college. And had I switched to like business or marketing, I would have had to add an extra year. And I'm super
Mm,
anxious to leave.
mhm.
So I just kept going with it.
That totally makes so much sense. So, where do you see your life going after college and with your business? What's next?
The most exciting things ever, basically.
Yeah.
In January, when I'm done with college, I will be moving to Los Angeles in California. I cannot wait. I'm going to either get like a house or an apartment in Beverly Hills. I want to have an office in West Hollywood for my team members. And I'm really wanting to build a global brand. I want to still have my courses and I may or may not have coaching still at the time, but I'm starting to get paid to podcast. So I really want the podcasting to be big for me. I really want to have a reality TV show. It would be super
Mhm.
cool. So, putting out those manifestation sparks. And I actually have a couple of other business ideas for businesses I want to start outside of my personal brand. I really want to have my own like hostel franchise that is
Mm.
international so I can start like a really cute like IG worthy affordable hostel all over so people can get out there and travel more. Lots of little things, a clothing line. It's going to be big. So you guys have to follow along.
I love that because I feel like I know you mentioned that you did have your first five-figure month, but I feel like now, especially for our generation, it's great if you decide to have that 9 to 5. I'm not knocking 9 to 5, but I do feel like you have to have multiple streams of income. Just
Mhm.
just not only to just have multiple streams of income, but also I feel like with our generation, we have so many different passions and interests that for me, when I started off in college, similar to your story, I switched my major about 3 times just because I
Mhm.
have so many interests in so many different things that differ in so many different ways. Some things you can like collab and do like mixes of, but some things are so far fetched. For example, I started off in college for food science and human nutrition, but I ended up in PR. I could do agricultural communications or communications for the FDA. There's lots of things I could still do, but I
Mhm.
just like in other ways I've been able to go further along in the communications realm. And with that, I'm able to have multiple streams of income, have a day job, have my podcast, have a blog, and whatever else comes along the way. So I think that is very important with people moving forward, at least. So yeah.
Totally. I think multiple streams of income is one of the most important things that you can do because whether you work a 9 to 5 or not, if you want to be a millionaire or a billionaire, you have to have multiple ways for that coming in. And if
Hmm.
you want to be making big money, you need to be investing as well. And that's something that I'm getting into this year too. And it's so true that, like, as millennials, our generation, we love lots of different things. And I think we love being busy. We love getting down and grinding, doing, having our hands in multiple, I don't know what the saying is, cups. I don't know. Having our hands in lots of different projects. And that's definitely how I am. Like, I want to be a part of the real estate and travel industry, and that's where my hostel is going to play. And I want to be a part of the entertainment industry. That's where my TV show is going to go. I do have an extensive background in fashion, so I want to be a part of that. And I think letting ourselves just go into that full force and giving ourselves permission to do all of it and make it all under one brand so it still makes sense is
Hmm.
like our superpower as millennials.
Hmm. That's that's a good point. I remember I met a girl who is a blogger in New York. And she explained to me, for her example was Lauren Conrad. She's like, it's
Yeah.
best to have your brand be your name. Only because at first my blog was Fashionista on the Run, but I recently changed it last month and rebranded it to my name. She's like, if you
Mhm.
think about it, your name is what defines you. You're able to be all of these different things and still be under that same one brand. And at first I was
Mhm.
like, I don't like to do what everyone else is doing and everyone else is on Instagram with their name. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. But she instilled in me the confidence to say, like, your name is so unique and so different that it helps to define also your business assets and what you bring to the table. So it finally gave me the confidence to switch over to my name and be able to start building those multiple streams of income and be more confident and tactful, I think, with it.
Yeah, I love that. And I do think it's super important to have things under your name as well. Cause before I started my blog, I was like, I don't know what to name it. Like, do I do because Mikayla Jai is my first and my middle name. And I was
Mhm.
like, do I do my full name? Do I do first, last, first, middle, something else? And then I remember a blogger I followed, and I was like, I don't even know her name because I just know her blog domain. And I remember
Mm.
thinking, I don't want that to be me. Like, I don't want people to just remember me as some name that's not my own. And I think it is really powerful with anybody, like Elon Musk and Kylie Jenner and Lauren Conrad, any of them, they can do anything and it can be a part of their brand as long as, it like aligns, it has the right colors and makes sense. They can
Mhm.
do whatever they want because it all connects.
Yeah, because even Kylie Jenner, she's able to have like Kendall and Kylie with her sister, and then she's also able to have like Kylie Jenner Cosmetics, and she
Hmm.
from there she's able to make. I think the most recent product, you can probably correct me if I'm wrong, is the Kai Brow. Like she's able to
Yep.
like do spin-offs with her name and just get really creative.
Yeah, exactly that. It's so strategic. And the same thing with Kim Kardashian, she has
Mhm.
her beauty and
Same.
her and Kylie can do collabs because that makes sense. She does her photo shoots, it's just that's the best way to open yourself up to having massive influence and affluence, I think.
Mm. So I want to switch gears up a little bit just because I feel like people want to become their best selves. Basically, everything you
Mhm.
talked about is what people want in their lives. What is the process of transitioning and doing? I feel like when people try and start things, even like businesses or blogs, they're like, well, how do I start? What's the roadmap? What's the roadmap or the steps you can take to becoming your best self?
Mhm. I think it would be the same steps I take for my manifestation process. So, step
Mhm.
one is getting really, really clear. You won't know what you want like you can't get what you want if you don't know what you want, and the universe can't give you what you want if you don't know what you want. So getting really clear on what that vision is for your life. What is the vision for your relationship, for your finances, for your career, for a business? And just having it down to like the tiniest of details. Like I know exactly what I want in all of my hostels. I know that I want a spa with X, Y, and Z service and like a yoga studio. You need to know all the little things for the vision to start manifesting. And then the second thing you want to do is figure out like why you're not there right now. And I think
Mm,
talking about it on the energetic side is we have to be an energetic match for anything we want. And if you don't have something that you want, it just means that you're not at that level yet. You're not at that energetic level. And a really easy way to understand this is if you walk into like a Louis Vuitton store, there's a certain vibe you get when you walk in. It's like very bougie, very luxury. Sometimes you walk in, you're like, oh my God, I'm intimidated. That's how you
mhm,
know that you're not living at that vibe yet. If you walk in and you're like, I can buy something here, I feel good, that's how you know you're an energetic match for that. And your bank account's going to reflect that. Your relationships are going to reflect that. So getting really clear on where you are at in comparison for the thing that you want. So when
mhm,
you're thinking about your best self or your best life, you paint the vision for that and figure out what is like the vibration you need to be on, and just asking yourself who you need to be in order to live that life. And then the next thing that you're going to do is I call it like tricking your brain. And that's just doing the mindset work where you're rewriting the stories. And that can be like scripting and acting as if everything's already happened and that you're already this confident, bold businesswoman, and writing about your day as if it already happened, and rewriting the stories so you can affirm what you want to be true about your life.
mhm,
And then the last part of it is just like forgetting how it's going to happen and just taking the action. Just have the faith. Go be that person. Go do the things that she does. If you're like, I call it your next level self. If your next level self goes to yoga 3 times a week, go to yoga. If you can't afford it, do YouTube videos 3 times a week. If she's drinking green juices daily, order green juices or make your smoothies at home and start to take those actions. I like to think of it almost as a to-do list. So you get your clarity, you know what you need to be doing, you've rewritten the stories so you can already be that person, and then you're taking the action. You're marking things off of the to-do list.
mhm. So I obviously don't know. I don't know old Mikayla, the one who was very negative, as you said, or just was a little down on life. The Mikayla I do know is this one who just did this recording and everything, and the one I met at the event. How do you remain so
Mhm.
confident and just so positive? I know you mentioned like you do the rituals and all that stuff, but what is like? How do you just keep it going and just wake up each day and just remain positive and just forward thinking?
I'm really fucking determined all the time. Every single day. I am so clear on my vision for my life, and the fact that I want to be a billionaire, the fact that I want to have all of these business ventures, and that I'm going to be moving to California and I want to be networking and being around these high level people. I have that vision in my mind and I think about it every single day. And that's what keeps me so motivated. And it reminds me, like, okay, like in order to get there, you need to be on your Instagram stories today. You need to be recording your weekly podcast episode. You need to be taking the action steps that are in your control right now to get where you want to be. And so once you have that momentum, you have more motivation. A lot of people say, like, they're like, oh, well, I don't have motivation to do the things. And
Mhm,
it's really, you don't have the motivation because you're not doing anything. The
mhm,
motivation comes when you get to fucking work. And so for me, it's really important that, yes, that I rest and have self-care, obviously, and that's why I have my daily rituals and boundaries and stuff, but that you just work your ass off, know what you want, and don't let anything get in the way of that. I will also say I am a Capricorn. So if you know anything about astrology, Capricorns are the most determined and work-oriented sign, which I totally am. But I also think it comes from my past as well. Like when I was in high school, I lived alone for a couple years. And like I shared earlier, we went from being really wealthy to really poor. And, seeing the low points in my life really showed me what I don't want. And that helps me get crystal clear on what I do want. And I let that drive me every single day.
mhm. Well, that's all the questions I have for you today. And I appreciate your insights and just you had me really thinking a lot right now. So it's a little bit why I'm a little like jaded just because I'm thinking about my own life and I'm just like, wow, I need to start incorporating this stuff into my life.
Mm.
Is there anything I didn't ask that you want to say or you just want people to know?
Yeah, I will just add one last thing that I like to tell everybody is just decide, figure out what you want in your life and decide that it's going to be yours because in my brain, my success is inevitable. Like the idea of failure literally makes me laugh. Like it just does not exist in my brain whatsoever. And
Mhm.
that's just because it's a decision I've made. So if you're starting a business and you're scared, just decide that the only possible outcome is for you to be successful and rich and hot and that bitch. Just it's one
Mhm.
decision away, and nobody can knock you down from that if you just decide.
Yes, like, yes. Sorry, I was trying so hard not to snap, and I'm like, you know what? Whatever. This is my podcast. I'm gonna do what I want. But
Yep.
yes, girl, yes. The name of my podcast is Pour Into My Cup, and the last question I like to ask people is your cup half empty or half full? So I'm gonna ask you, do you feel like your cup is half empty or half full?
Oh, it's half full. It's overflowing full.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I appreciate your insight for the day.
Of course. Thanks for having me. It was so fun.
Can't wait until the next episode to get your cup filled? Follow us on our social media platform for daily inspiration at Pour Into My Cup on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. Or check out our blog and services at www.pourintomycup.org. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast to stay updated when new episodes are released. Leave a review and pour into someone else's cup by sharing the podcast. And I have to ask, is your cup half empty or half full? Peace, love, happiness. Rashiba signing off.